huge outer court. It was separated from the actual temple by a stone partition. A wall was there at this point. The Jews at that time viewed that court as of lesser importance spiritually than the inner courtyard of the temple where they could enter, a view not shared by God, obviously, as seen by Jesus' actions here. It was a very integral part of the temple, actually, because that is where those coming to worship God were to be met, so as to be prayed with, to be taught the word of God, to receive their offerings. If you've been here on Wednesdays, you know that the offerings were brought to God, and as they were received, they became God's property. They became holy. And so the people were bringing them, but unfortunately at the time of Christ, what such worshipers would be met with was this money-making racket. A lot of churches are this way these days. The Roman money is used everywhere else, was not allowed to be used in the temple, so it had to be exchanged for the temple shekel, but at an inflated price. Also, the animals that were used for temple sacrifices, such as these doves that are mentioned, had to be those accepted by the priests. They would inspect them and they'd say, no, if it's not good enough. So they'd have to purchase them for way more than they could be bought elsewhere. And so going to worship God had become a pain for many people. It's like, dude, I got to go there. I'm going to get ripped off by these guys. Oh, Lord, is this really the way it is? And especially foreigners. They travel long distance to meet the true and living God, only to be met with an air of inferiority. The priests would look down their noses at them, a money-making scheme, forced to leave with more questions than when they arrived. You see that with the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts chapter 8. Traveled hundreds and hundreds of miles under great authority of African queen, only to find this zoo atmosphere going on there and a wall between him and God. And it says as he's riding away, totally clueless, trying to understand Isaiah chapter 53, God sent a spirit-filled believer named Philip, himself now the temple of the living God. God sent him to meet the Ethiopian eunuch where he was at. That is what God desires of his church today, that we meet the unsaved world. Philip said, running along the chariot, do you know what you're reading? Well, how can I unless someone explains it to me? So I felt like last week